Hey guys, welcome back to another video. And for today's video I wanted to do like a extension of the previous video I did talking about my top 10 games of the year. For this video I wanted to do a year in review of all the games I played throughout the entire year. Now the way I'm doing this is I'm actually going to be talking about the games I've played by console. So I'm going to start off with the Switch, and then the Xbox, and then PlayStation. And for PlayStation and for Xbox, it's going to be for the entire generations of that console. So for Xbox is Xbox One, Xbox 360, and Xbox Series X. For PlayStation it will be the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, and the PlayStation 5. So I'm going to start off with the Switch, and without further ado, let's get into the video. So starting off for the Switch, I actually played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna the Golden Country. This is the standalone expansion for the original version of the game, and this is kind of like a prequel to the second game, but I still recommend you playing the second game first before delving into the expansion to get more context and more familiarity with the characters that are in the DLC. But if you really just want to play the DLC first, then you could just do that if you really want to. But I highly recommend you play the second game first and then the DLC expansion. So overall, I really did enjoy the expansion, and I highly recommend you check it out if you played the second game but haven't played the standalone expansion. If you like JRPGs, it's very good. The only gripe I have with the game itself is the side quests aren't really side quests. You have to do all the side quests, or at least like 80 or 85% of the side quests, in order to beat the game, and that's the only gripe I have with it. And luckily, a majority of these side quests actually feel like they could have been main quests anyway, and they kind of are, but the stories are engaging and you're kind of invested in what's happening with these characters. And overall, I highly recommend you check it out. So that was Torna the Golden Country, or Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna the Golden Country. The next game I played was Another Code Recollection, I believe it's called. Yes, Another Code Recollection. So Another Code Recollection is a compilation of two games that are in the same series. There was a DS game, and then it was a Wii game that came out in the UK or in Japan, but it never came out here. And it was a Wii exclusive for a majority of the time until this collection came out. And this is basically like a narrative driven experience similar to that of Telltale. You go through environments, find clues, solve puzzles, and you get to see how the story unravels. And these games are very strange in the way they structure this collection. So normally when you think of something like this, you get to choose which game you play first, but for this compilation you actually play the first game first, and it immediately transitions into the second game after you finish the first game. And unfortunately this collection does not allow chapter select from when I played it. I played it when it came out back in January, but I really loved the story. I love the main character. I loved pretty much how everything unraveled and how you explore the mansion you do in the first game and the second game as well. You're kind of on the edge of your seat and wanting to know what's going to happen next. And I love these types of games, and I'm really glad I actually took a chance on playing this, because there was a demo available, but I decided to just jump in anyway with the full release, and I'm so glad I did. So that was Another Code Recollection, another game I highly recommend you check out if you like narrative driven experiences. The next game I played is Oddworld Stranger's Wrath HD. This is a hybrid of a first person shooter and a third person action game, and you play as a bounty hunter that is trying to finance his surgery that he's been keeping under wraps because of the creature he is. And you're basically just getting all the bounties that you can, and of course the story unravels in an unexpected way. And the gameplay has environmental puzzles, and you also have, of course, first person action combat, or shooting combat I should say, and third person action combat. And this game is so very well done. I was not expecting to like this game as much as I did. It's not an open world game per se, it's a open-ended game, but all the environments are connected to one another, so kind of makes it feel like an open world game, but it actually really isn't. It's still a very linear experience, and I really enjoyed the game, and I am not sure if I'm actually willing to try out the rest of the Oddworld franchise, because it seems like each game is a different genre of game, and from what I've seen, like Oddworld Soulstorm, it doesn't seem like my type of game, but I'm really glad I gave this one a chance. And you can get this game digitally for like $5, I think, if not $10, and I think it's worth it. It is available on all the platforms as well. So that was Oddworld Stranger's Wrath HD. And the next game I played is actually Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 4 Bush Rescue Returns. So this is the compilation of 1, 2, and 4. And this is the only way to get the fourth game physically on Switch, and I believe it's only available on Switch. They didn't make this available for PlayStation. And of course I played the fourth game, like I've said, and it's a very huge departure from the previous 3 games. It's still a platformer, but it's a 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania like platformer. You still have boomerangs, and you still have opals that you can collect and buy other boomerangs. And of course you got all the characters from the previous games, they're voiced and everything. I don't think it's the same voice actors though, but overall it's a pretty decent game. It's my least favorite out of all 4 games, but I'm very glad I experienced it. And supposedly Krome Studios is planning on doing a Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 5, and hopefully they go back to the 3D platformer, but that remains to be seen. But I will be looking forward to that. And Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 4 I think is worth it on a sale if you can get it for like $10 to $15. I think it's worth it. So that was Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 4 Bush Rescue Returns. The next game I played is none other than Princess Peach Showtime. So this is a 2.5D 3D platformer action game where you play as Peach that gets trapped into a theater by this force, and you're trying to release the forces from these actors that are in the play in order to break them free from the possession. And Peach gets different abilities like baking, sword master, ninja, and some other other cool abilities that she has available. And this game is very good, but it is very simplistic and very easy to beat, and this is definitely geared more towards children, but there's still some enjoyment out of it. It is definitely a game I'll probably never play again, but I am glad I at least gave it a shot and finished it. And I really liked the baking levels. To me that was the most fun out of all the other levels. But yeah, if you can get this game cheap, I don't know if it's ever going to get discounted to less than $30. I think it's worth less than that, but I'm still very glad I gave it a shot. So that was Princess Peach Showtime. The next game is Resident Evil 4. This is the Resident Evil triple pack that comes with all 3, 4, 5, and 6, even though 4 is the only one on the cart, and that's the reason I own this version. So I've kind of been in the kick of replaying Resident Evil 4 HD, the original game, over the remake. And the reason I want to is because I kind of want to relive the experience I had the first time playing this game and finishing it. But for some reason I always stop playing this game by the time I moved past defending the house that you're stuck in with Luis and Ashley. After that I kind of dropped the game every time I try to replay it, since I played it and beat it the first time. And I can't really give an explanation why, but it seems to always happen. But I do want to replay this game in full someday. But I do love the game so much that I wanted to own the game on all the consoles that I can. So that's why I own it, and that's why I decided to play it, because I felt the itch to play it. So of course that was Resident Evil 4 with the Resident Evil triple pack. The next game that I played is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door remake. So I had no experience with Paper Mario before, so that was my first Paper Mario game, and I absolutely loved it. I can see why so many people love this game in particular. The charm of all of it, the art style, the dialogue, and what happens in the story, I really enjoyed it. And I'm so glad they brought this back and I was able to experience it for the first time. And if you love turn-based RPGs, this is a very friendly entry-level RPG. And if you are interested in it, I highly recommend you check it out. And unfortunately, this game has been overshadowed by all the other releases that came out later in the year. But I still think this was a worthy remake and the definitive version to play. Even though I never played the original, but I will say this is a very good version of the game. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So that was Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. And the next game I played is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, the HD version of the DS game that came out called Dark Moon. They renamed it to Luigi's Mansion 2 with this version of the game. And you can tell this game was made for the 3DS, but it's still a very big game knowing that it was a 3DS game. That's pretty impressive. The visuals have been cleaned up to really make it look like a Switch game graphically, and it does. And I actually really enjoyed Luigi's Mansion 2. I know a lot of people think it's the black sheep of the franchise, but I honestly think it's a worthy successor to the original game. Despite the ghosts looking the very samey, even the boss ghosts don't have that much personality, but that to me is fine as long as I have fun with the gameplay, which I did. And I honestly am very puzzled they didn't do a HD version of the first game on Switch. But who knows, maybe they'll do a remake for the Switch too. But who knows. So that was Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, another game I really enjoyed. The next game I played for the year for the Nintendo Switch is The World Ends With You Final Remix. So this is I guess a port of the mobile version on Switch, and this is like the final version, definitive version of the game that they claim to be. And a lot of people give a lot of crap to this version of the game because the way the controls are with the Joy-Cons, people get frustrated. And trust me, there are times that I was frustrated with the controls as well. But I honestly think this is a very good version of the game, and the only version I played of the game. And I loved it all the way from beginning to end. Loved the way the story played out, the characters, and the gameplay was actually a lot of fun once you finally come to a good understanding of how the controls actually work. And I think this game should not be overshadowed or overlooked. And I honestly think this is a good version to play if you really want to get this version or just experience the game altogether. And this game is available on Video Games Plus physically right now if you want to get a physical copy. So I highly recommend you go that route if you want the physical copy. So that was The World Ends With You Final Remix. And last but not least for the Nintendo Switch is The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Very highly anticipated Legend of Zelda game, given this is the new original Zelda game for this style for the longest time. And I'm not sure if it's a sequel to Link's Awakening remake, but it's the exact same art style and similar gameplay. And I really enjoyed this game. This game is simpler than like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom with its like dungeon crawling and stuff. But I really enjoyed it. I loved the puzzles and the combat was cool. There was a couple of times I kind of felt a little frustrating, but I love the level of freedom that there is in this game. That reminds me of Tears of the Kingdom that came before it. So if you love The Legend of Zelda and if you loved Link's Awakening, this is a game you're more than likely to enjoy. And I'm really glad that I gave this game a shot. Even though I probably should have played Link's Awakening first, I decided to jump in on this game immediately. And I'm glad I did. I really did enjoy it. So that was The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Alright, so now moving on to the Xbox portion of the video. I'm going to start off with Peter Jackson's King Kong, the video game. This is what you think it is. It's basically a video game adaptation of the movie itself. And it kind of follows the story pretty faithfully. And this is a third-person / first-person action game where you do get to play it in first person for the human's perspective. It's like a first-person shooter, but The way they did this is they made it cinematic, so you don't get to see your HUD and how much ammo you have. You only have to listen to what your character says in order to know how much ammo you have left. But you can enable the HUD if you really want to. And yeah, it's a really good game and a really good adaptation of the movie. And it's a pretty impressive, given this was a game that came out in 2005 and this was a launch title for the system. So that's pretty cool. And this game unfortunately is not playable on Xbox Series X digitally. I don't think it's available on the digital storefront, but if you can find a physical copy, that is a way that you can play on Xbox Series X, because it is backwards compatible, but I just don't think it's purchasable digitally anymore. And unfortunately the physical copy is pretty pricey nowadays, so if you find a copy for a decent price, I highly recommend you check it out if you like decent tie-in games with movies. So that was Peter Jackson's King Kong, the video game. The next game that I played is actually a game I don't have physically. I played it through Game Pass, and that is Remnant from the Ashes. This is like a Souls-like game that is a third-person shooter. And I played this game because my friend Globe decided that he wanted to play something with me, and that was a game that we both chose. And unfortunately we never got to beat the game, but we did play a couple of hours of it, and we actually did enjoy the game for what it's worth. And I'm glad I tried it out with my friend, but unfortunately we never got to finish it, which is unfortunate, like I said. But yeah, I enjoyed my time playing with my friend, and maybe one day we'll revisit the game at some point in the future. So that was Remnant from the Ashes. The next game I played is actually a game preview game called Palworld, another game that's not available physically. And this is basically like survival Pokemon, I guess. You get Pokemon style of monsters that you can catch and have fight other monsters or other people. And this is basically like a Minecraft survival style game. You have a crafting system, you can build bases and other sorts of stuff. And it was fun for a while, and I also played this with my friend Glow because he and I wanted to try it out given the hype this game had when it first came out. But we unfortunately didn't stick with it. We played for a couple hours but never played it again, and I honestly don't think I'm ever going to play it again, because these survival type of games like Ark Survival or Conan Exiles aren't really my thing. But you know, I'm glad that I at least tried it out anyway. So that was Palworld. Okay, so the next game I played also through Game Pass, but I do have the physical copy, and that is Power Wash Simulator. I don't have the physical for Xbox, but I wanted to show you the physical copy I did have. So Power Wash Simulator is what you exactly think it is. You're just power washing different environments and different objects to make money and get better equipment, and it's a very relaxing experience. And I also played this with my friend Globe. Really enjoyed it, but it does take forever to actually clean the entire map that you're doing. But you know, it's very relaxing, very soothing, and it's definitely something you can play when you get home from work if you're too exhausted to focus on like a game like Call of Duty or Fortnite. You just want to turn your brain off but still play something. That is a very good game to actually play. So that was Power Wash Simulator. The next game I played is Portal 2. So this was my first time experiencing the game. I've heard, you know, all the praises throughout the years, but I never played it myself. I played the demo for the first game, but I never owned the first game ever. So when I jumped into this game, I did not know what to expect. I knew I was expecting puzzles, for instance. And overall, the game is very good, and the dialogue, the writing is on point, and I can see why so many people love this game so much. I was not expecting J.K. Simmons to be in this game, but I'm so glad he did, because you can tell he put all of his effort into voicing the character that he plays in this game. And I really enjoyed it. It is a game I think is worth experiencing if you never experienced it yourself. And you can go into this game without playing the first one like I did. So yeah, it's a really good game. I love the puzzles, I love the portal mechanic, and it's a shame we never got another Portal game. But maybe one day Valve will consider doing a third game, but we'll see. So that was Portal 2. The next game I played this year for Xbox is Fear. This is a first-person horror survival game, and you play as an operative in this organization, and you're trying to catch a serial killer. and you're starting to see visions of this. You're starting to see visions of this little girl, and she has superpowers, and it seems like the serial killer you're following and chasing down also has superpowers, and you're pretty much on a goose chase with this guy, and you're getting encounters with other people that are trying to kill you, and you get jump scares here and there, but they never felt cheap. And overall, it's a really good experience. I really enjoyed it. I was very impressed, given this was also in the launch window of the 360, and the visuals still hold up today, in my opinion. And yeah, if you like survival horror action games, I highly recommend you check this out. It is backwards compatible on Series X. So, and I would like to say all these games are backwards compatible with Series X, because I don't own a 360 or original Xbox or an Xbox One. So yeah, that was Fear. The next game I played for Xbox is none other than Forza Horizon, the original. So my previous experience with Forza Horizon was Horizon 3 and Horizon 5. I played Horizon 3 for a little bit, but I dropped it for a different game. But Horizon 5 I played to completion, and I loved it. So I was very skeptical on going back and playing the original game, because I was afraid the original game would be a far cry from what it is now. But the roots of Forza Horizon, like everything that you expect from it from the newest entry, is in Horizon 1, but it's very more simplistic, and there's a lot less things to do, and the map is a lot smaller, even though the map I think is a pretty good size. And I really enjoyed this game. There was a lot of fun, and I normally don't really care that much for racing games, but these types of racing games where it's kind of a blend of arcade and simulation, I can actually get into, and I love exploring the environments and stuff. Unfortunately, this game isn't as open-ended as the sequels, because even though it is an open world game, you can't go off-road. So every time you try to do, there are barriers that are stopping you from going into the fields or other areas in the game. So it's just more for show, but it's such a gorgeous game, and this game is over 12 years old now, and honestly it looks like it could have come out a couple of years ago. And yeah, it's a really good game, and I highly recommend you check it out if you've only played the more recent titles but want to experience a more condensed, more focused version, I guess, even though these newer games still feel focused to me. But yeah, that was Forza Horizon. Next up is a game I don't own physically, and that is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So once again, I've been excited for this game for a while, but I've been cautiously excited, because it seems like every year Call of Duty disappoints me bit by bit, especially last year's game. But Black Ops 6 is actually a pretty decent game from when I played it. I played a little bit of the campaign, but I never actually beat it, and I kind of feel guilty for not going back and finishing it. But I don't feel like I have an obligation to, because I played the game through Game Pass, so I don't outright own the game. And I did play a lot of the multiplayer though with my friend Globe, and had a lot of fun with the game for the multiplayer, and had a lot of frustrations with the game with the multiplayer, which comes with every single Call of Duty game that's released since its inception. But you know, playing with your friends is a lot more fun, and I'm glad I played the multiplayer with my friend Globe. We did play a round of zombies once, and you know, it was a step up from Cold War in my opinion, because I didn't really care for Cold War's zombies mode, and I definitely did not like Modern Warfare 3's zombie mode. But this is definitely a step in the right direction, and I may revisit Black Ops 6 to finish that campaign, and maybe play with my friend if he chooses to want to play the game with me. But yeah, that was Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and that concludes the Xbox portion of the video. Now to the PlayStation portion of the video, starting off with Devil May Cry 2 HD. This is the Trilogy HD pack. So, like I've heard before, a lot of people really don't like Devil May Cry 2. They say it's the one that you can skip, but I wanted to form my own opinion, so I started off playing this game, and I can see why people say you can skip the game. Even though I don't think it's a terrible game, but it is a game that was rushed out the door just to put something out on the shelf, given the hype of the first game. And the first game is such an incredible game, and from going from this first game to the second game, it's a step back in many ways, but the but the second game did contribute to the franchise and included the Bloody Palace mode that's been a staple in the franchise since then. And I did play through both Dante's campaign and the woman's campaign. I don't remember what her name is. It's been such a long time since I played this. But I played through both, and the ladies' campaign was a lot more fun than Dante's, which is very bizarre. And Dante is very mute the entire way through to this game, which is very weird. But yeah, I did find some enjoyment, even though it is a very mediocre game. So that was Devil May Cry 2 HD. So the next game I played is Lawn Mowing Simulator. So I played this game to kind of relax myself and really just play something without thinking too much about it. And like, I think I've mentioned it before that cutting the grass was one of my childhood chores growing up, and that was literally the only chore I didn't mind doing because I love the smell of cut grass, so I never mind doing the lawn. So seeing a game that is basically just cutting grass, I wanted to get it, and I did, and I played a couple of hours of it, and I really enjoyed it, and it is very relaxing. And yeah, if you like the cutting the grass as a chore and you want to experience that without actually going outside and doing it, whether because you live in an apartment or you're just too lazy, this is a very good game to kind of substitute that. So that is Lawn Mowing Simulator. So the next game that I'm going to talk about is a game I don't own physically anymore. I did at one point, and that is Grid Legends. This is a racing game. I guess it's more arcadey than it is sim from my experience, and it's basically like a documentary style of storytelling, and you know, there's interviews with the people in the story and stuff, and it's very well put together. It reminds me kind of the Gran Turismo movie in a way, but I really enjoyed the game and I had fun with it. But it was a game I was never going to play again, and I was okay with parting with it, so that's why I got rid of the physical copy. But it is a game I played and I still enjoyed it for what it was. So that was Grid Legends. So for the next game, just like Grid Legends, I don't have physically anymore. I did at one point, and it's actually going to be a 2-in-1. So it's going to be Nickelodeon All-Star Brawls 1 and All-Star Brawls 2. So I played the first game before I played the second game. And the first game, the fundamental basics were there, but it still had a lot of work to be done, and the game did not have voice acting, but was added later on. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, my PlayStation 5 was not able to run the game correctly for whatever reason, because the game actually froze my console where I had to unplug it from the outlet, which is unfortunate, and that was pretty much the last straw for me, because the game was kind of mediocre in my opinion. So I sold it, and when I bought the second game, a vast improvement over the original game. The controls finally felt good. There was voice acting from the get-go. The characters they chose made sense, and the story was a lot more expansive than the original game, because the original game was just kind of like an arcade mode. But in this game, there's an actual story and there's meaning to the fights and stuff, and it's almost similar to that of not Brawl's style of storytelling. It's kind of more like maybe Ultimate storytelling, Smash Bros. Ultimate, but it's still very basic. But there was a lot more input into the story and not just a second thought just to put it in. But I did really enjoy the second game. But if I want to play something like Smash Brothers, I'll just stick with Smash Bros. So I ended up selling the second game as well. But if you had to choose, I say go with the second game. It's a vast improvement over the original and has better characters in my opinion. So that was both Nickelodeon All-Star Brawls 1 and 2. So the next game I played after that is Tekken 8, a highly anticipated game from Bandai Namco, and I love Tekken. I've loved Tekken since the 4th game, but I unfortunately haven't followed the franchise very closely since then. I did play Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and that game was okay. And I did play Tekken 7, which was a great game. So Tekken 8, I was very much excited to be finally actually looking forward to the next Tekken game that I can actually play. So yeah, I really enjoyed Tekken 8. I really enjoyed the story and how it unfolded, and of course they left the door open for a sequel, which I'm sure they're going to do. And overall I was very impressed with Tekken 8. And yeah, that was Tekken 8, another great fighting game. Next up is Grand Fantasy Relink. This is the deluxe edition that you can buy. So this is a third-person RPG game, a JRPG game, and it's structured similarly to that of Dragon Ball Xenoverse, where you have an overworld and you can take on side quests and go and venture out with your friends if you play with other players. But there's also a main story that you have to participate solo. And yeah, the environments are very open. The environment's actually pretty cool and very diverse. The gameplay loop is very good too, and had me coming back time and time again. And unfortunately this game went under the radar, and it's unfortunate. Even though it wasn't my favorite game of the year, it's still a game I very much enjoyed. So yeah, if you like JRPGs, if you like Dragon Ball Xenoverse, that style of gameplay loop, I highly recommend you check it out. So that was Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. The next game I played this year for PlayStation is Persona 3 Reload, of course. And I've already mentioned how much I love this game in my top 10 video. And yep, I really love this game. I can't wait to jump into the DLC, which I'm going to wait to do because I'm going to take a break from these types of games after finishing Metaphor. But yeah, Persona 3 and Metaphor neck and neck for me. But Persona 3 Reload has a special place in my heart. I'm very glad I tried this game out. I ended up loving it. So yeah, that was Persona 3 Reload. A very good game to enter into the franchise, in my opinion. The next game, or games I should say, is the Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered. So this is, like I've said, it's a remaster of the first 3 games with cleaned up visuals but still retain the visual art style of the original game. And the reason I bought this is because I wanted to experience not just all 3 games themselves, but the second game in particular. I loved exploring the mansion of Croft Manor the entire time when I was a kid, and I always locked the butler into the freezer like everyone else did. But this game is very old school and the controls are very old school. Even with the modern controls, the game can be very frustrating trying to get through it. But the nostalgia is what really got me to play these games. But I'm not sure if I'm actually ever going to actually fully go through them, but I'm glad I own them anyway physically. So that was Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered. So the next game I played is another collection of games, and that is the Star Wars Battlefront, a classic collection. Like many other people, I was very much looking forward to this. I have fond memories playing Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 with my cousins back in the day. So I was very excited that we were able to play these games again, not only locally but online with other players. But unfortunately, they botched this collection. The servers were atrocious, and even though the gameplay loop itself is intact, it doesn't hold up as well as you remember it being. And I'm not sure how the game is now with the servers, but the damage is already done. And maybe I will go back and play the single player experience, but yeah, I don't know if I'll ever play these games online ever again. So that was Star Wars Battlefront Collection, Classic Collection. So the next game I played is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So this is the deluxe edition, of course. So I was very excited for this game. This was my most anticipated game of the year. I went out of my way to get this edition, and also got that ridiculous steelbook that you're able to get with Best Buy's pre-order bonus. And I did double dip with this game. I bought it digitally because there was a deal I could not ignore. You get the first game digitally and the second game for the same price as just paying for the standard version of Rebirth. But yeah, I played the game digitally, that's why this is sealed. And I really enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I still believe the previous game, the remake, is a better game. It's a better focused game. The open world, like I've said in my top 10 video, is decent, but the activities available to you are very run-of-the-mill, mediocre, standard stuff that I think Square Enix could have done a lot better. and by the time I reached the third region, I was already done with all the open world stuff, and I only did the side quest to improve my relationship with Tifa, and I ignored everything else, and I just beelined the main story, which is unfortunate and probably not their intentions when they made this game, but it is what it is, and I did really enjoy it. I am looking forward to the third game whenever that releases. So that was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The next game I played is The Last of Us Part 1 Remake. So like many others, I questioned why this got a remake, but I welcomed it with open arms anyway. And this is a very good version of the game. They re-updated the models, and they did do the environment some justice, but it's so minimal, the environment, that it almost feels the exact same as the remaster that came before it. And if you have access to the remaster, there's no need for this remake, unless you just want to play the native PS5 version. This game did get a pro patch, but at the time I didn't have a pro, so I just played through it normally. And it is a very good version of the game. It is the definitive version of the game if you can look past the need for the remake. But yeah, I'm very glad I gave it a shot, and that is The Last of Us Part 1 Remake. So next up, I played South Park Snow Day. This is the Switch version, but I did own and play the PS5 version when I owned the physical copy for that. And this was a huge disappointment for South Park Studios, because I would have loved another RPG South Park game, and this is what we got instead. And the game could have been decent if there was a lock-on system, but the lack thereof and the lack of content really drove this game into the ground before it even began. And the humor is there if you love South Park, but unfortunately that's not enough to really keep you invested in finishing this game. And the card mechanics are cool and everything, but this just was a step down from Fractured Butthole and the Stick of Truth, because they raised the bar for South Park games, and this is what they gave us next. So that really sucks. So that was South Park Snow Day. So next up is Planet of the Apes Last Frontier. This is like another narrative driven experience similar to that of Telltale, where you get choices of dialogue, and depending on what you choose, certain things will happen. And it's a lot more restrictive. You can't really explore any of the environments. It's just like watching a movie. And this game is pretty decent story-wise, but unfortunately this game is plagued with bugs and glitches that really distract you from what's going on in the story. And unfortunately they never fixed it, because I did play it with patches, and the patches barely did anything. I did really enjoy it, and I did play this game in preparation for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan. I love all the movies, and I even find some enjoyment out of the Tim Burton one. But yeah, I'm glad I played this, and I'm glad I own a physical copy, because this was a limited run game, and that was Planet of the Apes Last Frontier. Next up is going to be God of War Chains of Olympus. This is the God of War Origins collection. So Chains of Olympus was originally a PSP game that was ported over to PS3, remastered in HD. And I'm actually very impressed on what they were able to do with this game, because this game was originally on PSP, and the PSP was such ahead of its time. And yeah, this feels like a complete God of War experience, but just condensed in a sweet little package. And I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to play the other game that's in this collection, and then I would have played every single God of War game. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend you check it out if you can on PS3. I'm not sure if it's on PS Plus Premium for streaming, but I want to play it natively because I can't stand latency issues. So yeah, that was God of War Chains of Olympus. Next up is of course Stellar Blade, another highly anticipated game when they first showed it to us, and the game really lived up to my expectations and beyond. This is a third-person action, almost Souls-like game, but yeah, you play as a very gorgeous girl named Eve, and you're pretty much trying to figure out what's going on with your organization and these alien creatures. And I was very invested with the story. I really liked helping out all the people in the world, and overall it's just a very good video game. And I know this game had a lot of controversy given how the females look, but honestly, who cares? They look gorgeous. They're, awesome to look at. But beneath all that, it's a very good game. and that was Stellar Blade. The next game I played is, of course, Sandland, a game that came out of nowhere, and I did purchase this game because the creator of Dragon Ball unfortunately passed away this year, so I wanted to support his work more than I usually do, and I'm so glad I did because the game itself is very good. It's a very good open world vehicular combat game. The oddest thing about it, honestly, it's dubbed in English, and what I mean why that's odd is because One Piece Odyssey that came out last year is only sub. They never invested any money to get the dub, which is unfortunate, but I'm glad this got a dub because I did play this with dub. And overall, I really enjoyed it. I loved the story. I loved exploring the environments and the vehicle combat. And I highly recommend you check it out, especially if you're a fan of the Dragon Ball creators' work. So that was Sandland. Okay, so next up is going to be Dead Rising HD for the PS4. So, like I've mentioned before, I tried playing this game on the 360 and then this version of the game on Xbox One, but I couldn't get into it because I didn't understand what the game was. So I gave it one final shot over the summer and I fell in love with the game. I finally understood it and how you're meant to play it, and I loved it from start to finish. There were some visual bugs here and there with this version of the game, but fortunately the game did run fine. There was no crashes or anything because unfortunately these versions of the Dead Rising games are plagued with issues, but I didn't run to any severe ones, so I'm glad that was the case for me. And yeah, so that was Dead Rising HD, a very good game. And if you are very concerned with the censorship of the remaster, you can still play this game on PS5, so you have that option. Next up is going to be Dead Rising 2, the sequel to the first game, of course. And this one is specifically plagued with issues, according to other people. Fortunately for me, I did not run to any of these issues. I didn't have a single crash once, but I did save like a madman just in case. But yeah, this is a very good sequel. Of course, people had some backlash for this game because you don't play as Frank West. But Chuck Green is just as interesting of a character as Frank West. The gameplay loop in this game is a lot better than the first game. The introduction of combo weapons is very nice. The mall itself is really cool and more expansive than the original game, and I really loved it, and I think it's a worthy sequel of the original game. And I'm really hoping that Capcom does a remake for this game as well that they did with the first Dead Rising game, but that will remain to be seen given the success of the deluxe remaster. But who knows? I'm hoping that they do. So that was Dead Rising 2 HD. Next up is going to be Resident Evil 4 Remake. I played the PS4 version, but I don't own it physically. I own the PS5 version physically, so that's why I'm showing you this. So there's not much I can say about the remake for this game. It's incredible, the definitive version of Resident Evil 4. And if you've never experienced Resident Evil 4, I honestly say you can just skip the original game and play this one if you really want to, but I still recommend you play the original game first, but that is totally up to you. And yeah, this is a very good remake, and Capcom has been pretty much on fire with Resident Evil games, and this is no exception. So if Resident Evil 5 is the next game that is releasing in the Resident Evil franchise for remakes, I'm honestly open to it. And I did enjoy Resident Evil 5 for what it is. So that was Resident Evil 4 Remake, another great game. So the next game I played is a game that I don't own physically anymore, and that is Aliens Fireteam Elite. I played this game. I really enjoyed the game for what it is. It's a co-op, third-person shooter action game set in the Aliens universe. And I don't remember what the story was about. It was very paper thin, so I can't remember anything. But the developer really recreated the environments from the Alien universe very faithfully, and it is a very fun game, especially if you play with friends. I played it solo, so it wasn't as fun, but even though I enjoyed it for what it was not enough for me to actually keep the physical copy, so I got rid of it. But yeah, if you can find the game for cheap, I think it's worth it, especially if you have friends to play with. So that was Aliens Fireteam Elite. Next up is going to be One Piece Warriors, the original game. This is a Warriors game based in the One Piece universe, and it follows the story loosely from the East Blue Saga all the way up to the Paramount War, which is Marineford. And I honestly really enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed the gameplay loop. Unfortunately, the game does not run very well on PS3, and unfortunately it's stuck on PS3. So what I initially had was pixel anomalies on the screen and stuttering with the cutscenes mostly, and fortunately a majority of those issues were fixed once I deleted and reinstalled the game, but eventually that problem returned later on in the game, but I kind of just worked through it, and I really enjoyed the gameplay loop. I really enjoyed playing as all the other characters, and my love for One Piece really excelled my enjoyment of this game, because if I wasn't a One Piece fan, it would be hard to recommend this game, given you can only play this game physically now, and if you want to play in English, you have to import the UK version, and that's a little more pricey than the Japanese versions. So that was One Piece Warriors. Oh, One Piece Pirate Warriors, my bad. So the next game I played is, of course, Black Myth Wukong. So this is another Souls-like game based off of Chinese mythology, and I really enjoyed this game. And I really enjoyed the way the story was told. I loved the bosses, I loved the environment, I loved the combat. There was very different variations you can do for the combat, and it honestly kind of reminded me of Nioh, the way that game played. But this game stands around the same level for me as Nioh and all the other games, and it's a very enjoyable experience. I did double dip on this game, as you can tell. I played the game digitally first, and then the physical came out, and I purchased the physical copy. And this will remain sealed for probably ever. But overall, if you like Souls-like games, Black Myth Wukong is definitely a very good game to jump into. So that was Black Myth Wukong. So next up is none other than Astrobot, a 3D platformer that is very similar to that of Mario, with the mascot of PlayStation now being Astrobot, it seems like. The worlds, the level design, the platforming, the abilities you get is all top notch, is all incredible. There's not much I can really say about this game that hasn't already been said. If you love 3D platformers, this is a must-have to own on PlayStation 5. So that was Astrobot, and if you played Astro's Playroom and you enjoyed that, you're going to love this game, because this is a lot more of that. Next up is going to be Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. This is the physical that came out with limited run. Unfortunately, this game was a very big disappointment for me. I love the original game, and the original game did not run very well on PS3. So I was hoping with the PS5 version it would run flawlessly, but unfortunately that is not the case. There were still frame drops. There was still stuttering with the cutscenes. And even the mowing the lawn mini game in the game is a lot slower than it is in the original game, and I didn't know that until I saw YouTube videos comparing the two, because I haven't played the original game in such a long time. But yeah, this was a huge disappointment, and I was hoping that they did this game justice, but they didn't. And if you want to play this game on modern consoles, unfortunately this is the only way to do so, because the game otherwise is stuck on PS3 and the 360, and I believe they replaced the original game with the Repop version on Steam. So this is what you get. So that is Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. Next up is going to be Until Dawn, the remake. So as many other people, I love Until Dawn. I loved it when I played it, and I haven't played it since the original. And when they announced the remake, of course I jumped on it. And unfortunately I jumped on it too early, because the game was plagued with issues with frame drops and other stuff. Fortunately for me, I did not experience any crashes or any freezes or anything. But this game has since been patched, and actually was given a pro patch. And I honestly don't have any desire to replay this version of the game at all. And even though I enjoyed it for what it was, because Until Dawn is a good game regardless, I don't have any need to replay it. But I do want to own a physical copy of the PS5 version, which is why I got a replacement copy and returned the old one. So that was Until Dawn. Next up is none other than Epic Mickey Rebrushed, a game that really surprised me. So I played the demo, was very impressed, decided to play the full game when it came out, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the story, I loved the levels, the paint and thinner mechanic. The only gripe I had with the game was the lack of voice acting, which I think could have been done given how much money Disney has now. But unfortunately that's not the case. I'm hoping they do a sequel remake for the second game. So that was Epic Mickey Rebrush. The next game I played is Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. And unfortunately I was not able to actually finish the game because I mentioned before my PS5 completely shut down every time I tried to play this game, and it would be for a variety of times. It would be 5 minutes or even an hour later, and I didn't want to continue to put my PS5 through that again. But now that I have the Pro, I could potentially play this game and see if my PS5 Pro has a better chance on actually handling this game, but I'm honestly too afraid to try because given how expensive the console was, I don't want to accidentally brick it, given I've only had it for like a month or two. So yeah, that was Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. Maybe one day I'll give this game another shot and hopefully have zero issues with it this time. So the next game is none other than Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. So this is a remake more than a remaster, and it's in the RE engine. The game is intact, the gameplay is intact, and it feels almost exactly like the original game. And overall, this is the definitive way to play Dead Rising, in my opinion. I know it's not going to be a popular opinion given the censorship, but overall the game looks gorgeous, plays great despite the censorship. I really enjoyed this game, and this is the version of the game I'm more than likely going to go back to time and time again. I do want to get the platinum, but I don't want to rush through it and then be sad that I finished the platinum. But yeah, I'm glad I own this. So that was Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. Next up is going to be Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. This is the fourth game in the series and was renamed to Sparking Zero everywhere instead of being what it was called initially. So this is definitely different from the Xenoverse games, and overall it's a really good game. It's a steep learning curve, and unfortunately I was never able to actually fully learn it to be very good at it, but I was able to beat Goku's campaign, and there are other campaigns I can play, but I was satisfied enough with beating Goku's campaign, and I do plan on going back and finishing off the rest of these campaigns, but it's not on the top of the priority list. And the game does look gorgeous, of course, and the gameplay is fun, but overall I'm satisfied with what I played and was ready to move on. So that was Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So next up is going to be Silent Hill 2, the remake. And like I've mentioned before, I was not interested in the remake based off of I already had the HD collection on PS3, but FOMO got to me and I decided to buy the game, and I played it immediately. That is the deal I made with myself to justify the purchase, and I'm honestly glad I did because I absolutely loved Silent Hill 2 remake. The aesthetic, the environments, the level design, the gameplay was all very well done. Bloober Team knocked it out of the park, and people finally believe in them, even though I really enjoyed the medium, the game they made before this one. So I am very much looking forward to what comes next for them. So that was Silent Hill 2, a game I highly recommend if you love survival horror games. The next game I played is none other than Demon's Souls. I have the game digitally, so that's why I have a sealed copy. And the reason I played this, like I mentioned before, weeks ago, I wanted to have this game be my first experience on the Pro, and I was very impressed on how crisp it looked. And I only played the game for like 2 hours, and I was very satisfied with what the PS5 Pro can do if it's implemented correctly with the PSSR. In this game it actually is. So I'm hoping that the third-party developers and publishers fix the PSSR issues on their end for their games. So that was Demon's Souls, a great Souls game, and a perfect place to jump into the Souls genre in general. Following that, of course, is going to be Dark Souls Remastered. So in between Metaphor, I wanted to play something that I didn't have to focus that much on story. so I chose Dark Souls Remastered. It's a game I play every year, and I know the game like the back of my hand. And I played this game up until I beat the gargoyles, and I dropped it because I wanted to focus again on Metaphor. But yeah, unfortunately this game does not benefit from the PS4 enhancements that is available on the Pro. But yeah, I really enjoyed the game. So that was Dark Souls Remastered. Okay, last but not least is going to be Metaphor ReFantazio. I'm still in the middle of this game, well, towards the end of the game, and I'm very much enjoying it. I love it just as much as Persona 3, and I gave this game my #1 spot, given it's a new IP, and Atlus really put all their energy into this game, and it paid off. And yeah, really enjoying the game, and I'm hoping I actually beat this game before the end of the year, but it's not looking like it's going to happen. But we'll see. I don't want to rush the game to the end, even though I am in the final stretch. So that is Metaphor ReFantazio. So that concludes all the games I played this year. Of course, they were not in order of when I played them. I ordered them through the consoles instead. But next year, I'm hoping I am more organized and really show you guys the way I played them in the order I played them in. But yeah, let me know what all the games you've played throughout the year and your thoughts on them. I'm very curious. So yeah, that was it, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. And I apologize having this video be extremely long, but hopefully you found some enjoyment and some useful information with this video. So anyways, thank you.